Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Hockey on 216, proudly driven by Hyundai. And of course, filling in for Calvin Watt this weekend, my name is Manny Sekhale, and joining me in the studio is going to be someone who's graced our screens and Channel 216 through her commentary and analysis, Hope Paloba. Hope, how are you doing?
I'm good, and you, Manny? Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. And someone that has graced our TV screens many a time before, one of SA's finest shop stoppers who's been gracing our ears on TV, Sia Noluchong.
Manny, thank you so much for having me today. Always great to be in studio with you.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Now, of course, our friends from Takealot and Bravo have something for us. So guys, don't ever say I don't bring you anything. First thing we've got in the background, our friends from Bravo have brought us some bags, some sticks, and I've got a little bit of a present for you guys, all the way from Takealot. Sia, hope you guys can have a look at what's inside there.
Thank you so much, Manny.
Now, our friends from Takealot and Bravo have graced us with their presence here. And of course, if you jump onto the takealot.com website, you've got an opportunity to get a massive discount if you put any 2 items from Bravo into your kit bag. So be that a bag, a stick, or of course these awesome pair of shoes that Sia will be showing us. You get the opportunity to save big with Takealot and Bravo.
It's so nice. The grip on it is insane.
Yeah, and so guys, first thoughts here.
I like the sleek white design. I'm a big fan of a white shoe on a blue or red turf, or blue or green turf, my apologies.
Yeah, and of course, if you put any of these 2 items, be it a bag, a stick, or a pair of shoes, into your cart, you automatically get a discount off of these Bravo products. Sia, your thoughts?
Manny, from my side, playing hockey for so many years, I always look for a good rigid structure on the bottom of the shoe. Really, really nice sole. Got some grip here at the bottom. Obviously, you don't want to be hit by the ball on the front of the toe, so some really good protection. And obviously, shoelaces nicely weighed out, so always great to have a quality pair of hockey shoes.
Absolutely brilliant. So I'll take this away from you guys. You can pop that right there. Of course, our friends from Bravo bringing us some real quality. Bravo Hockey is a Dutch brand with history. It's innovation, technology, extensive stick collection, trendy designs and accessories. Bravo has the perfect product for every hockey player. Some of your favorite players from Bravo?
Yeah, obviously, with that being said, Manny, you can visit the SuperSport School's WhatsApp channel and Instagram story and vote for your favorite Bravo player. There's a few options to choose from. That is Erin Christie, Ongewaze Mali, Hans Nietling, Malika Hamza, and Bridget Key, our very own SuperSport School's friend here.
Right on the SuperSports School WhatsApp channel as well as our Instagram page. Now, jumping right into it, a couple of achievements that we have to honor. Of course, in the girls' game, a lot of these girls playing plenty of games, and special mention to Sienna Grazer, the first player from Fairmont who managed to reach 150 caps. Hannah Schwegman from St. Anne's, as well as Khabiso Murafe managing to get 100 caps for St. Anne's. Jasmine Kelly, Jade Kelly, Bella Hoffman, as well as Holly Hoffman from St. Anne's managing to get 150 caps for their schools as well. Amazing achievements, isn't it?
It's a lot. I think most of them have been playing since under 14 or under 16 level throughout. So we spoke about it last week, actually, saying the amount of games that the kids have played throughout the course of the year obviously adds up. And I think 150 caps, not only pride, but it's amazing to see. Like, it's building hockey constantly.
Indeed, and I think the most important part about that is to see that hockey grotesque grow up as much as possible, and you'll likely see it when they move towards playing for their provinces and likely even cracking the nod there in the SA setup. So it's going to be exciting to see what these players have achieved versus to what they're going to be doing in the future for their hockey.
Yeah, exactly. And just staying on the theme of playing for their provincial teams, of course, a lot of these players will be representing KZN Inland at the Under-18 tournament, and it's going to be a fantastic effort. One of the first from Orendal with the side, of course, someone who knows how to win tournaments.
Yeah, he's been with Oranje for quite a while, and I think he's going to make history at St. Anne's as well. Obviously, as he's constantly progressing the game, he's going to get the outcomes.
Yeah, Manny, what we'd like to see more of is coaches obviously keeping that momentum as they also develop in their spaces, because at the end of the day, yes, the kids are the ones that are putting out the results. But when we see growth with the coaches, we know that they are going to pass that on, and it's a legacy that's been created for St. Anne's College. So
yeah,
great to see.
Absolutely. Looking forward to seeing them go head to head with some of the best provinces in the country. Now, just moving further south, of course, we saw K-Day, a fixture with loads of tradition between not only St. Andrews and Kingswood, but of course DSG and Kingswood. So some really good results there from St. Andrews and of course DSG.
Yeah, massive result from DSG Makanda. We spoke about them last week. They had such an amazing Saints Easter feast. So obviously having a look at the goal scorers, Captain Abigail Holderness scored 2 goals. Her sister Lucy Holderness, Jocelyn Apple, Alexandra Avondale and Lauren Menage. They have a lot of potential coming through, and most of them are actually juniors for their side. So I'm very excited to see what DSG is going to do, winning 6-0 over their opponents over there.
Yeah, 100%, an emphatic victory. And on the Thursday of that week, of course, St. Andrews managing to get 2-1 there against Kingswood. Sid Fishlock, as well as Luke Starkey and Greg Rodwell managing to score the goals there. And Sia, what a fantastic encounter.
Yeah, man, it's always a battle of the giants more than anything. You want to be the one who comes out on top in those fixtures, especially a place like Grahamstown. You've got really good coaches that are there that are really pushing to push results and hopefully even compete in other tournaments countrywide. So this is a great start and a great building process to this, and we'd like to see more of those close games with victories that are to play for.
Yeah, exactly. And such an important derby this is between the two sides. The entire town comes together. And how exciting have all these derbies and Friday night lights been for you guys having a watch?
No, I love it. I love the vibe. I love the atmosphere. I love the fact that there's food stalls and you hear music and drums, and I'm all for it. The action just makes me so warm inside. So I wish we had that in school.
Indeed, and I think the other part is obviously the fans. More than anything, you want to be part of those shouting crews that are on the side with the war cries, obviously putting a little bit of entertainment, or obviously riles up a lot of the players when you hear your home ground or your home school busy shouting for you whilst you're on the ball. So it'll always give you a good feeling deep down inside, particularly as a player, and motivate you to actually come out with something.
Yeah, exactly. Just going back on some of those achievements, 150 games for Sienna Grazer, 100 games for Jasmine Kelly, as well as Jade Kelly. And both of you guys as players and coaches, what advantages does that have for players?
I think it's a lot of pride. It's such a big opportunity. Obviously, if you go in as a junior into the team, you're not necessarily going to make it as a senior into the team. So you constantly need to work hard and build and train and strive for the results. So 100 caps, really like big ups to them. Very proud, and I think you would agree with me. It's not something that's easy to achieve.
Yes, indeed. And I think the biggest part about it is that that's an opportunity to step into a leadership role. Yeah. Majority of these players that have a lot of caps are normally finding themselves either as vice captains or captains of teams. So they would want to pass on that legacy and make sure that the younger players that are coming up are learning from them, and that they're giving them the toolkits basically to run with the team should they actually find themselves in their shoes in the future.
Yeah, of course. And we just have a look at KZN Inland. They've got those 5 players with over 500 caps between each other. And that's just going to bring a different dynamic to that KZN Inland side, isn't it?
Indeed. And I mean, KZN has shown that they've got quite a lot of potential all around, both boys and girls. Great schools that are down there. And we're likely going to see a lot of these players featuring in the IPT sides that are coming up. So it'll be good to see some of these players stepping up in those national IPTs and seeing what they're capable of, because that's an opportunity once again to crack that nod into that national setup.
I mentioned last week saying that they might be the underdogs, but now that everyone's watching the show, I don't think they'll be underdogs anymore. But it's definitely a team to look out for, players to look out for, loads of potential, and obviously the building phase of SA hockey and the junior side is going to be massive, having that potential come through. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Well, of course, managing to muster up 6 last year, Mode Orendal and his troops will be looking to do even better. Now, talking about the IPTs, the under-18 IPT happening between the 29th and of course the 5th of July. The under-16 IPT happening between the 7th and the 13th of July. And hope you've got some other dates for us with the younger age groups.
Yeah, under 14 IPT is the 4th till the 7th of July in Joburg at KES, King Edwin School. And the under 13 IPT is 29 June to 3 July at Jeppe. So it's going to be something to see. And we're obviously here in the CBD, in the heart of hockey. So definitely make your way down.
Well, 100%. There's going to be plenty of hockey in your screens in the coming few days. Of course, we saw plenty in the last week, and there's going to be plenty more as we close up this week with Friday Night Lights as well as IPTs. To put you guys on the spots of the fixtures we just spoke about, what were some of your highlights?
My favourite part was seeing St Andrews' results over Kingswood College. I mean, the first team all won 2-1 and 6-0, so DSG Makanda girls obviously won over Kingswood. So I think as a first team and as a school in general, you'd want to get that result over, as you said, such a massive event, which is K-Day. So that was my favourite part of it. And K-Day obviously being the home of hockey in Grahamstown, constantly growing, getting people with, being a part potential of the Friday Night Lights. This was my favourite part of the segment.
Yeah, and I think the biggest one for me is DSG Makanda's performance. They've been phenomenal. Their results, them earning themselves 6-0, is a big show that they're stepping in the right direction, and we'd like to see more and more dominance in different spaces. We want to see new teams come up, but obviously they being my standout team so far.
Absolutely. Well, plenty of achievements, plenty of derbies, some fantastic encounters that we saw last week. But don't go too far away. When we come back after the break, we're going to take a deep dive into some of the girls and the boys hockey, as well as the upcoming IPT. Don't go too far away. We'll be back in a little bit. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Hockey on 2 and 6, proudly brought to you by Hyundai. Now, in the first segment, we had an opportunity to chat all things achievements, derby days, as well as IPT. Now we're going to have a real deep dive into some of the girls' school games that happened from around the country. And we're going to start things off in the Eastern Cape. So a game that we had a little bit of a chat about in the first segment, DSG Makanda versus Kingswood. Does this solidify DSG Makanda as one of the better sides in Eastern Cape at the moment?
I think so. I think DSG has been seen as one of the top schools in the Eastern Cape. So this result really cemented everything for them. And I think going forward, it's great to build from. So great start from them. They've had a really good season thus far. So I think they'd be happy with the results. And besides that, the game wasn't really, I'd say, touch and go. It was a proper win for them. They were they were in it from the get-go, and they kept pulling through. So 6 win is a massive result for them. And obviously having their captain score 2 of the amazing goals, I think it's just, as a coach, I'm just burning on the inside with happiness.
Yeah, and I see really hard lines there for Kingswood, of course, on their home K-Day, on their AstroTurf. As a side, how do you bounce back from that? It's not a bad result. It was a really good result from DSG. But as Kingswood, what do you take out of that game?
Yeah, I think it's all about resilience more than anything. You know that you're going to have some ebbs and flows during the season, and unfortunately for Kingswood, for that particular fixture, they went down 6-0, and DSG could have just been very, very clinical in those phases of the game, and it's all about who takes it away very early. And I think once you start developing that, I'd say, discipline to make sure you maintain the results over a consistent period of time, I think Kingswood will be able to take themselves out of that dip that they've had and show a little bit of resilience and show a little bit of determination to actually change the fixtures that are coming up. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they will do in the next couple fixtures, if they do have, that are coming up.
Yeah, indeed. Tricky day at the office for Kingswood College, but nonetheless a really good result from DSG Makanda. We were talking about it a little bit off air. Clarendon, Cambridge, an emphatic win there from Clarendon, but a decent fight from Cambridge, from a school that not too many people would have expected a win to come across there.
Yeah, I think the most important part there for Clarendon was to make sure that they put in some numbers on the sheet there, because they haven't necessarily had the greatest season so far, considering that they have been one of the schools that have been spoken about quite a lot, and it is a school to beat. So they will be very happy with the result that they've managed to get over Cambridge over there. But we'll see once they play against some of the stronger fixtures, how they'll come across, how they'll feat in those battles. So hope maybe you can give some insight on what Cambridge could do in circumstances.
Sure, I do think as though it was a tough game. I'm going to agree with you on that. Cambridge utilising SuperSport schools, doing some video analysis, tactical analysis, maybe seeing who the key players are in the Clarendon side, just to break down that rhythm that they started building towards the end of the game would be better for them. But on Clarendon, I do think as though they had a really good St. Mary's tournament, or they didn't necessarily end where they wanted to be, but they had a great start to the start of the season. Then they had a little bit of a dip, so I think the 9-0 win for them is just a little bit of confidence and helping them go towards the end of the season. So I agree with you, it was an emphatic win, Manny, but I do think as though there are some building blocks that they can better on.
Now, we chatted about the next one off screen a little bit, and I think this one probably being our game of the week last week, at least on the goals section. Sterling 3, Hudson Park 2. Sia, you said you didn't expect that one. What were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's a battle of the co-eds in my home city, East London, so it's always good to see teams starting to actually pick up over some time. I know Sterling wasn't as strong as Hudson Park back in my time, and we've seen the transition a little bit. So it's great to see that Sterling was actually able to pull a result on Hudson Park. It shows that the development has different cycles, and we actually have to take cognizance of that and actually give it and applaud it too, more than anything. So well done to Sterling for getting that result. And I think Hudson Park are going to look to fight even more, because that's basically a derby of co-eds there in East London. So we'll be keen to see what will happen in the next year coming up.
Hope closely contested game, 5 goals in that game. And your thoughts on that Sterling victory?
3-2 is a massive win in my eyes, to be honest. It's not too comfortable to walk away from, but it's also not something you shouldn't celebrate. So I do think end-to-end stuff, really a massive game. The crowd was insane, not really knowing what to expect from the game. As you said, it's a co-ed game. So sometimes it might be in favour of the one school, and other times it might be in favour of the other school. So I do think as though walking away with that result, 3-2, winning the game, massive.
Well, of course, we'll jump into the boys' results a little bit later, but just to finish off in the Eastern Cape, Woodridge College 5, Westering 0. A really good performance there from Woodridge, and that's a school that we've seen that can play some really good hockey, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great to see Woodridge actually taking that game 5 goals to 0. Obviously, PE schools, those two, they're going to be wanting to make something out of it. It's a game of bragging rights, and I think they're unfortunate there for Westering. Cooks won't be very happy about hearing about his old school losing to Westering, where he also used to work when he was at Woodridge. So I think it's going to be great to see them feet against each other in the next fixture they do have against each other. Westering will have a lot to prove when it comes to that game.
Yeah, emphatic victory there for Woodridge College. Somewhat clinical, right?
Yeah, a lot to walk away from. I do think as though if you do lose a game, you start thinking, what can we do better? How can we break down the opponents? What can we better from our sides in the sense of attacking or even defense? I know Moodles isn't here, but in his absence, I want to emphasize the defense. So I do think as though with the next derby or the next time they do face each other, it would be a better game on the scoreline. So it was a great game to watch, but I don't think that the score reflects the game necessarily.
Well, plenty of local derbies there in the Eastern Cape, and plenty of bragging rights are going to either or side as we move further north in the KwaZulu-Natal region. Now, hope you had a good chance to have a look at a couple of these games. The first one we're going to start off with St. Mary's DSG Kloof up against St. John's. And before you start, I must say, St. John's, I've been really impressed by this side. A side that we weren't talking about too much about 2 years ago, but their hockey program has come so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, I do think with the provincial coach Philip Smurden, just helping them constantly grow, he really is putting all the hard work in behind the scenes, morning sessions, and you could see in their structure just constantly shifting and changing and adapting to their opponents. And I do think tactically they are a very, very smart side, and playing against St. Mary's or facing them over the weekend, they didn't really do that bad. I mean, it's not a bad result. Going 3-1 down against St. Mary's DSG Kloof. You have Chicken Nolwazi, or
Yes.
Chicken, as we all know her.
Affectionately.
The SA Under-21 ladies assistant coach playing against the Inlands under 18 girls coach. So it can be quite intimidating going into that game. So I do think as though 3-1 isn't a bad result. I don't know if you watched the game, but obviously it wasn't really a given result as St. Mary's Kloof were dominating from the start, getting many PCs, getting many field and goals. But St. John's defense was just so good. Like the way they just stopped the outcome, line saves, and build up phases going forward was amazing. So massive shout out to Coach Philip Smurden. I think he can be happy with the outcome. Going 3-1 down to St. Mary's Kloof isn't a bad result.
Yeah, of course, the St. Mary's Waverley's champions of 2025, and see, it must be said they would have had all the pressure on them going into that game.
Yeah, with St. Mary's DSG, I think they have been phenomenal throughout the season. Coach Nolazi Kabine, she used to be my manager when I was in university. Great hockey mind. She is so good with the youngsters, making sure she's coaching them tactically, technically, making sure that they're physically in shape to push out the outcomes that they have, and that's a result of the 3-1 win that they got over there. And big shout out to Philip Smurden and the St. John's DSG team for doing really well, despite them going 3-1 down. That would normally be a runaway fixture for St. Mary's DSG over there. So they've done really well. I do remember during during St. Mary's Fest, they actually pulled a result against Unisi. So that's a turn of the tide there for St. John's DSG, and we want to see more of those. And we can see that the gaps are getting much smaller and much closer to these stronger teams. So big work done there by the schools to bridge that gap.
Yeah, 100%. Fantastic work being done there. And another school in more or less the same situation, Our Lady of Fatima, who once again, 2 years ago, we wouldn't have thought this is a hockey side, but I've been so impressed with them. Getting a good result there against Maria Stella. Fantastic result for them, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think Coach Matthew Smith would be very, very happy with this result, going 4-0 up against the team. It is a very good game, and I do think as though dominating from the first whistle and pulling it throughout the course of it is amazing. And you can see that Coach Matthew Smith did his homework, giving his team the correct pieces to do because they utilised every single time. This isn't a game that had many penalty corners. So, yeah, I do think as a coach, you need to do your homework to be able to utilise it, to be able to show it on the score sheet. So massive hand to him.
Yeah, and the final one in KZN, we'll go back to St. John's DSG. 5-0 against Ipworth. Ipworth, a side that's been doing really well this season. They did fantastically well at Kingsmead, and unfortunately just not their day that time round.
Yeah, Coach Darren Gallagher will be a bit disappointed with his side there with Ipworth. And once again, St. John's DSG showing that they're a really capable team. They played against their counter school. They're both in the same area in Pietermaritzburg. So it's also a game of bragging rights in this particular moment. So well done to St. John's DSG for pulling that result, and being it such a convincing result, they'll be walking around with their heads held up high.
Yeah, exactly. As we move all the way up north and down south, the Western Cape as well as Gauteng didn't have too much hockey to throw up, but Paarlgem once again really staking their claim on the country at the moment. A fantastic hockey side and a fantastic hockey program that managing to get 6 goals against Springfield, but it would have been Menlo Park managing to get yet another derby here, managing to get 2-0 in that game. And I hope you had a good look at that at that encounter.
Yeah, I do think as mentioned before, Coach Umari Pinar-Geyer, the SA Under-17 girls coach, and Coach Brad Brook from Menlo, it can be quite intimidating going into that game as well. But a massive hand to Wisco Menlo Park for going 2-0 up against that. I do think as though Brad Brook would be very happy with the outcome. They were in it from the start of the match, and in the SuperSport Schools article, actually, you can see that Coach Umari Pinar-Geyer isn't happy with the outcome, and she said that there's a lot to do on the drawing board going forward.
Well, absolutely, and we'll build on to that a little bit later as we discuss the boys' fixture in that derby as well. But don't go too far away. When we come back, we'll have a deep dive into all the boys' fixtures from around the country. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Hockey on 216, proudly driven by Hyundai. Now, we've had an opportunity to dive into the girls section. Now we dive into all the derbies that happened around the country with the boys. And as always, we'll start with the Eastern Cape. So see, I'll come to you regarding this one. Hudson Park Stirling, 3-1 to Hudson Park. would you say a fair result for the boys?
Yes, man, definitely a fair result. Hudson Park have shown dominance for many years in the Eastern Cape, particularly in the hockey space. But good of Sterling to also come into the score sheet over there to pull one back. Of course, you obviously will try pull as much as you can, but obviously Hudson Park being the victors over there.
Yeah, indeed. And it just shows you how well the girls did. Of course, a school like Hudson Park, Sterling managing to take the honours in that game. But the boys are definitely solidifying that derby for their school. Indeed. Now, moving on to the next one. Selborne up against Cambridge. 3-2, a really closely contested game here. Selborne might be a little bit disappointed by that, but managing to take the honours at the end of the day.
Yeah, Manny. I mean, again, it's a hockey fixture. You want to try get the win over there, and Cambridge doing really well to keep the spectacle really tight. 3-2. Cambridge can be really proud of what they've done in that fixture. Selborne is also known as a side that has shown dominance in the past, but they might be in their rebuilding phase right now, and they might be looking to get more victories from fixtures that are coming up. So good to see them still pulling the W over there, but they obviously want a little bit more against a side like Cambridge. So well done to the Cambridge team for putting 2 goals in that spectacle there.
I think it's similar to what we said earlier. You can't walk away from a 3-2 either not celebrating it or celebrating it too much, because obviously it's not a score that is up high. You know you won't be able to chase the score. So 3-2 for Selborne College is a really great result, looking at the fact that Cambridge could easily equalised or they won over them. So I think coach could be very happy with the outcome.
And of course, as we spoke about a little bit earlier on in the show, St. Andrews managing to get 2 goals over the one of Kingswood on K-Day, right at Kingswood College's AstroTurf. Now, diving into Woodridge versus Westering, we spoke about it on the goal side, an emphatic win for Woodridge this time around.
Indeed, it'll be a great Monday, a great Tuesday. In fact, as it was Youth Day on Monday, I think they'll be celebrating a lot from what has come from that. And good to see that Woodridge is really taking the strides to improve their hockey players, both from all the way from first team all the way down to their 14s. And in the past, they had the likes of Jason Seiss, who's now a coach at Micah House, leaving a legacy over there. And we're starting to see the fruits of that labour sort of come out in this next phase for Woodridge. So also really, really great to see.
Besides that, I do think that it's a new dynamic coming in now, because getting a new head coach in means that you need to get used to the way in which he or she does things. So getting used to the dynamic, growing it, going forward from it, having the players trust you with the plan that you have for the team is a lot. So that is a massive outcome for Woodridge College. And I do think that the coming season and the coming season next year is going to be massive for them. So yeah, well done to them.
Well, staying with Jason Seiss, we'll go over to KZN, where he and his troops managed to get an emphatic 6-goal victory over Westville. Not the worst Westville side in the world. They've had some really good results, of course, going down slightly to Jeppe, but just not their day on the day.
Yeah, a bit unfortunate there for Coach Harold Siaya. He would have wanted to try compete in that game as much as possible, and great work by Nick Berishon and Jason Seiss' team that side to pull off 6-0. Micah House have always been a side that you want to try compete as hard as you can against. Got the likes of a former SA player, Clinton Panther, coming from that side of the world. They'll look to find more players that will really stand out, and we're starting to see it more and more with the results that they're pulling off, and more duos happening, and they will try to expand to that and try get more victories out of it, especially when they play the likes of your top 10 schools around the country. So great result against a strong Westville. We know they have a rich history of hockey and the results they've produced over the last couple of years. So good result here for Micah House.
We spoke about the Micah House duo. We have Jason Seiss and Nick Berishon working together, and I do think as though they're starting to gel and get their rhythm now, and it shows on the results. So I do think as though they can be very happy with the outcome of the weekend, as their building phase and their new dynamic is starting to grow now. So I do think as though it can be a little bit of a shift and like an adaptation to obviously Berishon and Seiss not being from there and now having to change their whole lives, be there, grow the dynamic, get a new team, do what they want to do, and get the outcome is, yeah, massive congratulations.
Well, starting to peak at the right time, as it may be for Michael House. Moving a little bit further towards the coast, of course, Northwood up against a Clifton. 4-1 was the result there to Northwood. And talking about peaking at the right moment, it looks like this Northwood side is really starting to come into their element.
Yeah, they're really taking some good strides, getting some slowly but surely getting some good fixtures out with results. And we know that Coach Kelly back in the day, around 2013, had that Northwood side almost going unbeaten, but we were the ones who were fortunate enough to get a result out of them with Maritzburg College. But we're starting to see that era sort of creep up again. It's been a period of time where they've been rebuilding, and we're starting to see more and more come out of that Northwood side. So Gowan Jones will be really happy with the result from his alma mater. And Clifton will be a bit disappointed that they didn't get something from that result. But, I mean, they'll be playing each other at some point, probably either during the season or again the following season. So they'll try get that result back when they go again at it.
Yeah, indeed. Now, moving back inland, Maritzburg College up against Hilton. Hilton, someone that we had touted as one of the best schools in the country towards the front end of it. Maritzburg College, they look to be having a hard time. Didn't have the greatest start at Nomads, but really starting to come into their own. They've got some quality players, and they managed to show it in this encounter.
Yeah, great work by Coach Mark Sanders there at Maritzburg College, getting a victory over Coach Damien Kinfley. Those are the two schools that want to be battling it out. You'll see quite a few of the selections that will happen from under 16 all the way through to under 18 will be a balance between your Maritzburg College side, your Hilton side, your Michael House, your St. Charles, all the Maritzburg schools combined. But the result shows that it's a close competition amongst the schools, and we can see a lot more players really standing out over there. I spoke to the likes of Coach Damien Kinfley, and he was explaining that it wasn't an easy fixture for both of the teams. It was about who wanted it more. And Maritzburg College were fortunate enough to get a PC and put it away in a critical moment. That 2-2 battle is always a very difficult one. So well done to Maritzburg College over there.
Yeah, well, then hope, just like we saw in the St. Anne's and St. John's DSG game, that game really important for KZN Inlands on the boys' side, and it's so good to see that there's so much competition within that province at the moment.
Yeah, it was a massive derby in KZN. Obviously, loads of physicality, and it's two top schools competing against each other. So besides that, I do think people should be watching that game. And if you can't watch the whole game, the highlights are on SuperSport Schools Plus on YouTube. So it's just 6 minutes of your time, end-to-end stuff. It's loads of action. There's not a lot of cards, but you could see that Hilton had a breakthrough. They got a stroke and they scored from it, and they kept themselves in the game. So obviously going 2-0 down, getting caught in the 2-0 trap, trying to fight, and then ending the score at 3-2 is big ups to them. I do think as though the Hilton side did miss Coach Devin van der Merwe, as he's with the national main side now, the Nations Cup. But besides that, there was massive chances going both ways, and I do think as though Hilton had the upper hand of it. But Maritzburg College was just able to utilize their chances and get the ball in the box. And that is all you want from a coaching perspective. So all in all, a great game to watch, end-to-end action, 3-2. Not a comfortable score, but they can really just celebrate it and walk away with it.
Well, I'm sure Sia and Calvin will be really happy about that result. The two Maritzburg College boys in our studio. But now moving down to the Western Cape, now some really interesting results down there. We'll start off with Paul Roos up against Wynberg. 3-1 in that encounter. Probably saw that one coming, but a fantastic fight from Wynberg, considering Paul Roos are probably one of the best sides in the country at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think it was the most comfortable win for Paul Roos as well. They also had many chances going forward, penalty corner, shots at goal, but I do think that the Wynberg defense was also very solid, getting that ball like literally on the baseline, playing it out, very composed and playing very smart, playing the mini games in the corners, just getting the ball forward, just to relieve some pressure from Wynberg. So, yeah, it's a good result for Paul Roos Gymnasium, but I do think as though Wynberg isn't too disappointed.
Yeah, Coach Baker will be very happy about that result. I mean, more than anything, he wants to keep the momentum going for as long as possible, and he'll look to make sure that they capitalize on every chance that they do get in games going forward. And I think right now, he's done really well across the season. Obviously, the likes of Paul Gym being a huge competitor over there, he'll try keep on building on there and try get into that top 3, if not top 1 spot in the country.
Yeah, indeed. Now, another really interesting result. Paul boys who aren't well renowned for their hockey prowess, managing to get a 2-2 result against Bishops, a good Bishop side that maybe has struggled this season. But how good is that result just for the game, especially in the Western Cape?
Yeah, that's a very big game, and I think something's brewing in that Paul Roos Jim Juice over there. They'll try get more victories out of the Western Cape schools that are playing over there, and Paul boys have shown that they've got what it takes, and all it takes is one result to change everything, and hopefully we'll see more from them.
Obviously, Bishops was able to get their name on the scoreboard, but I don't think as though they're very happy with the result. I know Coach Ryan Julius is one of the coaching staff in the Bishop side, and I do think as though they're going to take this game and keep building on it, going back to the drawing board, see what they can change in their dynamic. 2-2 isn't a bad result though. I think it's an equal score, so you're not really winning or losing, you're drawing. So, but yeah, I do think as though Bishops is going to look to go and better themselves.
Now, I haven't forgotten about the Sax Paul Gymnasium game, but we'll come back to that one towards the end of the segment. First of all, let's have a look at Kearsney versus St. Stithians, a fantastic encounter. Kearsney managing to go down twice in that game with Alex Blatch scoring 2 goals, one from the spot as well as one from open play. But on their Founders Day, on All Boys Day, Kearsney managing to take it nice and late to win that game 3-2. What a spectacle.
Yeah, it's a game of jitters, particularly for opposition side that's coming down to KZN. I know I've been part of one of those games before, and it's never an easy feat, especially if it's your last game as a player or as a matric. You're always going to try put your all out and get your teammates banded up together to try get that victory for the guys that are leaving. So that's a great result for them. They'll be very proud of it. They'll go with a lot of pride. I'm sure their old boys are also ecstatic about the fixture and them getting the win on All Boys Day. So they'll be very happy with what they've come out with over there.
Yeah, indeed. And just to cap things off, it's the Hibbert Shield final that happened in May. It's the replay between Sax and Paarlgem. A fantastic game that it was back then. 6-3 was the score at Hibbert Shield. This time round, a lot closer, Hope.
Yeah, I do think as though going 2-2 against Sax for us, the Paarlgem side, it's insane. Equalising against a team that you lost 3 goals to is insane. So I do think as though the Sax side isn't too happy with the outcome, as though they had maybe a bigger scoreline hoping towards this game. And they, as the winners of the Hibbert Shield Cup, going 6-3 up, you not underestimating the team, but you're going in the team knowing that you have that bigger foot up against them. So I do think as though from the Paarlgem side, being the runners-up, and only having one Boeland IPT player, this is such a great result, and it's an amazing game to see, knowing that both teams fought until the end and having teams with big names on both sides. So 2-2 for Sax and Paarlgem. Yeah, I don't know what your takes are on it.
Yeah, I think the Sax team will be a bit disappointed over there. Paarlgem team will be very ecstatic. I mean, they have one of their alma mater who's now been selected for the SA men's team, who just got his debut, Colin Mentor. He's with the national team right now, so it's great to see that they've had some guys that have come through the ranks and have made it into that national setup. And so, some of these guys will actually be looking to crack the nod over there. So great work by the Paarlgem team.
Yeah, well, fantastic derby there between Sax and Paarlgem. 2 goals apiece it finished there, and a fantastic way to finish off the weekend. Now, don't go too far away. When we come back, we talk all things IPT as well as SS Schools Plus on the website as well as the Instagram page. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Hockey on 216, proudly driven by Hyundai. Now, we've had a chance to talk achievements, IPT. We've dived into some of the derbies from the ladies' side as well as from the boys' side. Now we're going to talk about what's to come. And of course, if you want to catch any of this action, you can catch it on the website sschoolsplus.co.za. Some of the most fantastic write-ups you can see about all of the action happening around the country. Of course, the SuperSport Schools Instagram page, as well as the School of Hockey SA Instagram page. Our writers doing an absolutely fantastic job to make sure that they keep you as well as our presenters in the loop week in and week out. And you can see a summary of all of the IPT teams up and coming. But if you're not going to do that, Hope, you've had a little bit of a look at what's to expect and who we can expect to see at IPTs. What does that look like?
Well, based on the fixtures we spoke about, there's 8 players in the Menlo Waterkloof Girls Derby that is going to Nationals IPT. So 4 from Menlo, 4 from Waterkloof. There's 9 players in the St. Mary's St. John's Derby going to National IPT. There's 11 players from Hilton and Maritzburg, 9 players from Polcham and Sax, which 8 is from Sax and 1 is from Polcham, representing Boland, and then 4 players from Menlo and Waterkloof boys. So I do think as they're going to inter-provincial tournaments, looking at these games and looking at the numbers, there's loads to come because obviously a lot of players are still playing regionals, and I know for a fact that I missed a few, especially in the Eastern Cape. So yeah, definitely make your way onto the SuperSport Schools app or just watch it live on 216.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll be covering plenty of that come IPT time. Of course, those dates under 18s happening between the 3rd of June as well as the 5th of July. That will be happening at Maritzburg College for the boys section and St. Anne's on the girls section. The under 16s will be happening between the 8th and the 13th. Hilton for the boys and St. Anne's for the ladies. Now, staying on the tune of IPT, there's been some fantastic work happening in the Western Cape, not just in Boland, not just in Cape Town, but Sia in Langa as well.
Yes, indeed, Manny. I think this is a very special piece that holds something very close to my heart, and I think it's very important that we also tell the stories of how hockey has transitioned across the country, especially in places with a lot of development taking place, with the likes of Inc. Hockey Club in KZN, Pandas Hockey Club taking here in Gauteng province, and Langa Hockey Club in the Western Cape. And I think it's important we tell the story of Langa Hockey Club in the Western Cape. They were founded in 1988, and they have been continuously growing a lot of players in their backyard, and they've found themselves developing to the point where they have started producing players into the national side. And I think it's so important that we speak of that story with they've got the likes of Lungile Tsolekile. He's a former Olympian who played for Langa, and I think it's important that we grace it with the colors that it requires, because he played in the Beijing Olympics. He's a veteran player with 102 senior national caps in that space, and he served in the leadership role when we had the South African PHL take place. He was with the Mapumube Mambas during that period, and he's been a very critical role for the players that are playing in Langa right now. And we've seen the likes of players that have come through, Zenani Cry, who got himself into the Olympic side in 2021 Tokyo Olympics. Post-COVID, we've seen the likes of Lutando Jonas, who've come into the national squad setup, and the brother of Zenani Cry, Lito Cry, who's currently now in the SAC setup and also in the SA Indo men's hockey side, who's just recently won themselves a bronze medal at the World Cup. It's so important to tell stories that are great like that, because there have been so many times where stories haven't necessarily gone out and they found out how they've developed from when they were youth players and have moved into the senior setup. And we'd like to see a lot more players come through the ranks, even the likes with Inc. We've got Mr. Ngubane, who's been running that setup. His son, Sihle Ngubane, has now transitioned into the national setup, currently coaching at St. Stithians with the under-16 side. And we've seen that some of those teams have benefited from his coaching, and we've seen it come across in the different results. So really, really great to see. We want to hear more stories told, and SuperSport Schools has opened up so many avenues to basically tell those stories and really put it out there, all those unheard stories that we haven't necessarily seen. We want to see more of and gravitate towards finding more hidden talent and more gems and tell those stories. And I think it's very important that we ourselves start finding that in the schools. And I'm sure if we could spend a little bit more time with the different coaches as to how they go about their coaching development, is that you'll find that they go into these smaller tournaments where they have had to really find the gems in those schools that are not necessarily found. We know the likes of Tevin Koch, for example. He's a senior player who's played at Maritzburg College. He was playing in Kokstad for quite some time. The Latuka twins also found there in that space. The likes of other players who really can tell more stories and we can find more things about. I think it's very important. Hope, from your side, I don't know if you've heard of many players that have come from either rural backgrounds or development places where you've sort of seen come through the scenes.
Yeah, I have, and I do think it's beneficial towards the development and the growth of the depth going forward. Obviously, if you are playing in a provincial side or in a national side, you want to bridge that gap between you and the players. So for depth and for development and growth, looking at the Langa Club, for example, they have 13 players going to national IPT for the Western Province. So I do think as though it creates the space that there's no weak links in the team, and it just gives someone hope, and it allows someone to write a bigger story and play for something bigger than themselves. Because obviously looking at players on the girls' side, they go to university, they play in the national sides. It's a lot to play for, and it's a lot to work towards. And obviously bringing that legacy back and starting your own campaign and growing it towards just keeps you, like, your people in the loop, and it just makes hockey a big thing in South Africa. So I'm 100% for it, so yeah.
Yeah, it's been so special over some time, and we've seen it also with the likes of our coaches developing players that I used to play with at university have chosen a different route. Instead of becoming a player, they've become a coach, and they found themselves moving in towards that space where they've been able to now really show their capabilities from a tactical point of view. And I think we haven't spent too much time focusing on that side where we're able to teach players and also learn from other avenues of sports. I know a lot of people have been involved a lot with Sportsways Clinic over some time. I know a lot of my own coaching development has also happened over there. We've seen a lot of people starting to really push through with the individual technical skills too, where players are learning a lot more about goalkeeping, about being specialist strikers or being midfield maestros, being able to move the ball from one area to another. Then from a defensive perspective, I think, which is one area, an aspect of hockey we need to focus on a lot more in the South African context, because we've got guys that are specialist players where they can do all the pushing, stopping and drag flicking, but actual defenders are really hard to come across in. And I think this is the platform, the area where we can start finding those little gems and developing a lot more of. And as time goes, we'll start to see that we become a lot stronger. We're seeing it in the national sides where we've got really good go-forward players, but on a defensive perspective, we find ourselves a little bit on the back foot. And I think we can start changing that narrative a little bit more and start finding ways to improve the defensive side of things, and then we'll find a nice balance when we'll start seeing more performances at a much more senior level. Right now, at junior hockey level, obviously, you have the time to grow and develop and really find that balance in between. So I think over some time, we'll start seeing a lot more of it, and we'll see that it's a peak and a trough period for the different phases of the game. So if we can keep developing on that, I think we'll go very, very far.
Yeah, besides that, we can bridge the gap going to senior sides as well.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Langa Hockey Club at the heart of our youth development there, bringing all sorts of talent. And important to note, those 13 players all over the age groups from 14, 16, as well as 18. So not a once-off. Now, having a look into what is to come, of course, this Friday is something that we all absolutely love. On Channel 216 will be Hyundai Friday Night Lights. This time round, St. Stithians up against St. Mary's. Now, St. Stithians coming 23rd at the St. Mary's Festival, St. Mary's coming 11th. Both of these sides having an interesting season, but this game is really important for both of these sides.
Yeah, I do think as though I shouldn't be doing this, but looking back at the results last year, they were on the forefront. So now coming into this year, being a little bit on the back foot, both being underdogs, this is going to be a massive derby. And because it's a Friday Night Lights, you have the crowd, you have commentators, the atmosphere is going to be livid. And I'm very excited to see it. Obviously, on the St. Mary's side, you have Coach Cindy Brown, the SA Under-21 ladies head coach, with lots of tactical knowledge and a very composed player and coach as well, focusing on, as you said, the tactical aspect of the game, getting the ball forward, doing all her homework in the sense of getting the ball in the box when it's penalty corner time. And then on the St. Stithian side, you've got Lance Lowe, which is the SA Under-17 boys. He was part of the setup and coaching staff there. And you have Robin Johnson being one of his assistants. She's an old Olympian. She has loads of caps for indoor and outdoor ladies. And you have Marnay van Aarde, who also had a lot of knowledge towards the game, who's also the head of hockey at St. Stithians on the girls' side. So all in all, this is going to be a massive bash, and having numerous players from both sides in the southern Gauteng setup going to numerous IPTs or inter-provincial tournaments, it's going to be exciting to see. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. It's going to be end-to-end business. It's going to be big bash. Commentators are going to be livid. The atmosphere is going to be nice. That is what the epitome of Friday Night Lights.
Well, final thoughts. I'm going to ask you for a prediction for this Friday first team game.
I hate when you do that. I do think
That's why I do it every time.
3-2 for St. Mary's. I do think it's going to be a chasing game, so 1-1, and then St. Mary's is just going to seal it off with 3-2.
Prediction?
Indeed, I think it's going to be 3-2 the other way around.
Okay.
I mean, Coach Lance Lowe and Coach Robin Johnson, they've been doing some good work with the girls. I've been doing a lot of specialist coaching for St. Stithian, so I've seen some of the stuff that they've been implementing in their training sessions. So I haven't necessarily spent a little bit of time with St. Mary's side, but I've seen the work that they've been doing inside the D to try get more opportunities taken over there. They build up play from different phases of channels. It's been great to see, and we're seeing more and more of it as it goes.
What's your score prediction, Manny?
Luckily, I don't have to do that. So it's been absolutely brilliant, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be an absolute humding on Friday, as it always is, between two of the biggest sides in the country. It's been an absolute pleasure coming from Hope, Sia, and myself. We'll see you on the next time round.